Chocobo is a guy who had whatever he wants and let it happen.
That's a good point. Wait, we weren't on the whole time?
Wait. All right,
Wait.
redo.
Roll
back. Roll back.
Hello, Touch TV, and welcome to week 3 of the PMA LCS, featuring tonight Labby Dabby Doo versus the Bung and the Restless. I'm Legends Michael Carrick, and with me is
Christopher Vitadistadis Packet.
And we're here to cast your game. So what do you have in mind for tonight?
Well, I'm expecting a lot of spicy action, honestly, because Labby Dabby Doo, team that really likes fighting and dueling. And you look at the stats page, they have some of the largest kill totals and death totals in the league. And I just love spectating their games because every time you watch it, it's a bloodbath and it's great. Everyone's fighting all the time.
That's awesome. And we're right here into Champ Select. Immediately we have an Echo Band and Sivir Band, us in PMA LCS style. Wow, these guys are flying by.
Yeah, they're really going. I think it's because both sides have a lot of clear power picks. Look at the Echo pick for This Is Lugo. That's one of his standout champions right there. The Lee Sin also, Labby. You on paper, he's basically a Lee Sin one trick. Don't get me wrong, he's got some tricks up his sleeve, but respect banning that Lee Sin, always a good move. And the Sivir ban as well. Sivir tier 1 champion, the PMA LCS meta, and all around just a really strong ADC right now.
And an open by the Bung and the Restless taking Jarvan the 4th, a nice flex pick top and jungle. What do you think they're going to try to pair with that?
Knowing them, I think the sky's the limit for pairings with this Jarvan pick right now. The Jarvan pick really doesn't reveal much because the Jarvan pick's really a Men-Bung standard. He's played a whole lot of Jarvan games in PMA LCS, so I'm not surprised to see them prioritizing that Jarvan pick.
Oh. So are you insinuating there's almost no chance they flex at top?
There's almost no chance.
Okay, interesting to see. And we have a Nico and Lucian come out right away. With the new playstyle, the Nico, do you see this as also the attack on hit Nico?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily see it as that right away. I think that's something that's really flavor of the month and really meta. And I haven't seen Nico's normal AP builds doing particularly well in this meta at the moment. But I would not put it past that team to have that as a flex pick. But I think that could easily be a top lane on hit Nico. That would be my gut right now.
And immediately the Bung and the Restless respond with a Tristana pick into the Lucian. How do you feel about that matchup?
That's a matchup that highly depends on support matchup. As in my opinion, a lot of all-in AD carries, that can all-in, how much fun they have bot lane really depends on what supports they get, because if they get bullied out in the support, for example, Labby Dabby Doo should 100% last pick a support here in order to, oh wow, as I say that, Leona pick gets locked in, but I would have especially waited for a strong support counter matchup in order to put that Tristana in the dirt, because she can all in, but if she doesn't, she can't all in, especially with a good support matchup, but I feel like if you were to prioritize that support matchup, Lucian has so much better early dominance and lane pressure over that Tristana.
Right, as you naturally should. And we have that Yorick ban that you had predicted before we started this cast. Even with the nerfs. Looking at that Vel'Koz while they think about these bans, do you assume that's going to be a mid or a support Vel'Koz?
It could be. I think it could be either. Clumsy Chocobo, no stranger to playing a lot of different champions, and has a rather holistic understanding of this game as a whole. And in his slightest side, I think he's a pretty sleeper mid laner at the moment. I think he can do some really good things. I would not be surprised to see this Vel'Koz go to him, and especially because Vel'Koz is a flex pick, you can just go, oh wow, they picked Leona support. It would be a horrendous idea to play Tristana Vel'Koz into this. Chocobo, you're playing Vel'Koz today, buddy. Have fun.
That's a fair point. Followed out by the LeBlanc band and the Swain band. They're still targeting out top lane, so I guess they assume, like you did, that Men-Bung will be on that Jarvan the 4th. Nocturne band fills out from the Bung and the Restless. What do you think Labby's first pick should be here?
I'm honestly not entirely sure. So looking at the pick options they have up, they probably need a mid and jungle here. I think whatever they do, it should 100% be a jungle pick here. And one thing I forgot to mention was Labby has played a whole lot of Jarvan. Like, he's played 3 games of Jarvan and 1 game of Malphite so far, so the Jarvan first pick for Bung and Restless is actually really good to be able to steal away Labby's Jarvan, and likely that Jax is probably going to be jungle for Labby.
And that's a good point. I mean, I guess it'd be pretty unlikely that Nico would be jungling anymore. And we have a mid Ahri pick, so that Vel'Koz will be going into the support slot unless they pull something fishy.
I don't like that. I'm scared for them. I'm actually scared for them. I don't know how they win that way against Lucian. I don't know what the game plan is here. You know, I say that now, and they'll probably like actually just dumps to them. We're like, you look stupid. This color caster doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, I guess that's the great part about PMI LCS. So with skill levels being so drastically across the board, you never really know how much pick advantage actually goes in these lanes. And we finish out the team comp with a Garen top. What do you think this team's goal is?
Their team's goal, they want front to back. They want front to back fights 100%. Vel'Koz, Jarvan, really strong AoE combos in a team fight, and Tristana, especially scaling into the late game, has a lot of range with which she can play around and a lot of self-peel with that ult, which is very helpful, especially against the comp of Lavidavidu, because they have Leona, Jax, and now the Fiddlesticks being locked in means that Tristana will be able to keep herself really safe. And they want, and this Ahri has the ability to be able to flank and try and take down get a lot of picks on Lavidavidu's comp right now. And honestly, both of these comps to me look very individualistic. There isn't really a sense of a linear team fighting objective or a linear 1-3-1 objective, and honestly, really low amounts of peel for both squads. So I think for the both comps as well with all these laners, you look at Tristana, you look at Lucian, a lot of these laners you see have a lot of self-peel, which helps to make up for that. And I think these are both very mixed team comps.
That's a fair point. Well, if you had to take a pick and give one of the teams your vote for the win, who would you pick this time?
I'm liking Lavidavidu here, and I'm going to go just completely based off the lane matchups here. And is that Fiddlesticks mid? That's going to be a Fiddlesticks mid. That's hilarious, dude. Logo's full of surprise. Logo's full of surprises, it seems. So I feel like this draft as a whole kind of played out with a lack of reaction and respect, so to speak, because the Garen was picked into a Nico, which could easily be an AD on-hit Nico top, which would not be a fun matchup for them. And the Tristana and Vel'Koz were, I believe, the Tristana and the Vel'Koz were picked into a Lucian, and then the Leona was picked into that. And just looking at this, I feel like Lavidavidu can get the comp win just because late game, I don't know what contests that Jax in the split push, and their comp to me has better lane matchups overall.
Right. Yeah, it seems very evident that Labby's team, just in terms of lane dominance, they have the upper hand. So what do you think the Bung and the Restless have to do to keep themselves in the game, at least during the laning phase?
I think you're looking for juicy combos and picks going into the mid game, because one thing that's going to be super important, super frustrating for Lavidavidu is they don't really have a dedicated tank, and so if you can catch this Fiddlesticks mid roaming on the rotation without wards or something safe like that, it's really easy to pick him apart. Now, obviously, getting picked on a Lucian, Jax, Leona a little bit more rough, but the Nico as well kind of doesn't do well in pick situations. So I think Bung and Restless needs a lot of picks. They need to wait in order to get an advantage by picking them off, and then they need clear, concise team fights that involve Jarvan ulting people with no escapes, Vel'Koz burning them down, and honestly, they just need some mechanical. Bung and the Restless has a comp with a higher mechanical threshold on some of their players, the Tristana, the Ahri, stuff like that. So I think they have greater outplay potential, which is what they you really need to look for transitioning into the mid and late game, I think.
Yep, that sounds reasonable to me. And then, of course, we discussed the fact that Labby Dabby Doo already has the lane dominance advantage. But what do you think they should be looking to do as they transition out of this laning phase?
Well, looking at both these comps, Nico and Jax, Nico not necessarily the best of split pushers, but can take turrets relatively fast and has really good dueling, especially against most of the Bung and Restless champions. Like, I think the only thing that you could potentially answer a Nico split push with would be the Ahri, unless the Jarvan goes full damage, and then could hope to blow her up. And the Jax also really strong split pusher. I don't see anything from the Bung and the Restless that can actually answer the Jax late game. So transitioning into the mid game, I think I'd like to see some 1-3-1, but the other tools they also have is Fiddlesticks engage, Leona engage with Lucian and Jax into a team comp that really doesn't have a lot of appeal. So I think either way you cut it, it can either you 5-on-5 and you win that, or you can 1-3-1 and you win that. I think they have a lot of options here. It's just going to be a question of which do they do and which do they set up correctly.
That makes sense. Well, while we're waiting to load into this game shortly here, let's talk about this patch. What were your favorite changes or least favorite changes from this latest patch?
We're on 9.5, right?
Yes, with the new Kale and Morgana.
So I think one of the interesting things is Vi changes. Vi recently got some changes this patch, and overall I think they're a buff. And one of the builds you see that's getting popularized recently is Hailblade's Vi, which works way better now because you get 3 seconds off your blast shield cooldown every time you proc your W denting blows. So the Hailblades really helps to keep your trading potential up in the fights and skirmishes that you take. But overall, I'm not that particularly big of a fan of Vi this patch, just because I think she has a lot of matchup problems against junglers that are good right now. For example, the AP Shyvana is a really strong pick that we actually haven't seen pulled out yet in PMA LCS, but could be very scary. And with that unstoppable on her ult, means the Vi really can't do anything to her in a 1v1 because Shyvana can just ult away. And also the other pick, the Olaf, also not fun to play against if you're Vi, because Olaf just ults your ult or your Q and you're pretty much losing the duel because he has more sustain than you do.
Alright, that makes sense. Yeah, she does seem like a fun pick, but I also have to agree, I haven't been able to find the niche for her yet in the game. What about your least favorite change in the patch?
Least favorite change? Let me look here. Akali buffs, dude. I hate Akali. I don't care that she's useless, dude. Make her more useless. Get that piece of garbage out of my game. I hate Akali so much.
No, that's a good point. So, looking at this Nico top, it is going to be Nico top, and most likely going to be that on-hit Nico, as you mentioned earlier, with that AP variant not being as powerful. What do you think about this current style of Nico play?
I think it's crazy good. It's surprising that people have slept on it this long, really. But I think the one thing that was missing in the past was rune optimization, because we're starting to see a lot of different runes picked up by the Nico. You'll see press the attack, by far the two most common you'll see, and the only ones that in my opinion are good are Fleet Footwork and press the attack. But before, you were seeing pretty much everyone always going PTA or everyone always going Footwork, and I think especially now that people are really getting a sense for how to choose between one master and the other, I think that's really making a huge difference for the Nico pick. And in the bot lane as well, it's still, AD carries in general still aren't in the best spot. Like, they're definitely better than they were at the start of the season, or at the start of Season 8, for example, when they had, the Vladimir bot picks running around and stuff like that. But overall, AD Nico does a lot of damage, and really the only time you can punish her is when she gets Bork Rageblade, or when everyone's on 6 items and your crit AD is finally powered up.
Alright, that sounds about right. And that attack range seems a little long for a mage, but...
Yeah, Nico's got some thick range. Like, honestly.
Yeah, speaking of recent changes in the patch, what are your thoughts on the current, health of the gameplay for Kale?
Kale's really... I have a lot of, I have a lot of, I, I have a lot of things to say about both Kale and the Morgana changes. I think Kale's rework is actually going to be toxic for this game because she has probably the worst laning phase I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it's so unbelievably horrendous. And Kale basically doesn't become a champion until she hits level 11. And so it's like, I think once more people figure out how to smooth that power curve and like realize they don't get to play the game until they finally get their ranged upgrade to level 11 and also the true damage upgrade, like the pretty much perma like exaltation waves plus true damage on the waves at level 16. Once people realize that they can't play the game until they get those two upgrades, I think you're going to see a little bit of an easier time for Kale. And also she's likely going to be getting buffed in general in the next upcoming patches just because her numbers look so low. But I think the champ's completely toxic for the game because she just doesn't play the game until level 11, and then once she hits 11, like, you don't get to play the game.
Okay. Well, we've loaded into the game. We're about to do our standard P-Mail CS pause to line up our casters for a moment. Hanging tight.
Yeah, look, my Posmio Alpha, dude.
Yeah, we'll try pausing at 10.
Yeah, we'll pause at 10. Oh, there it goes. I'm in. Alright.
4,
I'll pause at 10.
5. Paused.
I'm good too.
Give me a sec. Okay.
Alright, someone count off.
3, 2, 1. Unpause.
Okay.
Alright. As we open up the game, we see the Bung and the Restless look to ping out towards a 5-point defense, and it looks like Labby Dabby Doo is going to stack all the people in the bottom short of Nico. What do you think their early game plan should be here?
I don't think anyone should be trying anything fishy level 1. Both of these but level 1. The only real options I'm seeing for like level 1 shenanigans would be Fiddlestick Sphere, Leona's Zenith Blade, or Ari Charm. Or, for example, Vel'Koz E. Those would be spicy level 1 options, but pretty much if you take any of those options, you literally destroy your laning phase for the first level, like for the first few levels of the game. So I think they should both teams should be 5-pointing here, realistically speaking.
Yeah. And it seems both teams seem to have the same concept or a similar concept of what you decided, and they're just going to guard the entrances into their jungles. Looking at the skill selection, something I want to point out, I know the stream won't be able to look at it right now, but neither Ari nor Tristana nor a couple of the players on Labby Dabby Doo's side has taken their skill yet. I think this is a habit that most players should get into. What are your thoughts?
I 100% agree on that, because, for example, if Labby Dabby Doo were to invade, and you were able to get a juicy Vel'Koz on, like, 5 of them, you'd probably kill them. And there are a lot of circumstances where there's a spell that offers you way better utility in the laning phase, but you also have another spell that's a huge playmaking spell at level 1. And so taking that spell at level 1 screws your laning phase a bit, but, you know, if you get, like, 3 kills out of the jungle, ooh.
That's a good point, yeah. Well, both junglers opting to start on the bottom side of their jungle, and the bottom aggressive starts with an early gank from Membung, taking away Lugo's flash with that massive standard opening. And, ooh, wow, flash is forward for the auto attack, electrocute finishing the job. What an early opening.
I think that's a very good recognition from Menbung on that gank there, is the fact that Fiddlestick's still level 1 is literally just actually useless. He can push the wave, but he doesn't have the fear. He doesn't have anything that keeps himself safe from, well, stuff like level 2 Darwin ganks mid, for example. And also, another one of those reactions there is Lugo kind of knee-jerk reactioning, thinking he could turn on Menbung just because he took a tower shot, and that turned out not to be the case, and he just got killed by Chocobo, and he literally could have just walked out.
Wow. Membung running top to get that second follow-up gank after the scuttle, as it's a standard path in jungle right now. He did walk through the scuttle, or the pixel bush ward, but Rafal gets away from that gank without an issue.
So a lot of early game pressure here coming out of Menbung, and I think that's definitely a good angle to take, because honestly, you haven't seen Labby on Jax that much, and I don't know if I'm scared. I don't know if particularly I'm scared of Labby farming up and being a threat on that late game Jax as much as some other people perhaps, because I don't know how much experience he has on that champion. Like if he actually really, really understands what he's doing. And at the same time, Labby Dabby do have a lot of very gankable lanes, as none of them really have ways to escape back except for the Lucian dashing back. Once they're in, they're pretty much all committed, and getting some cheeky ganks and punishing lack of vision and stuff like that is a really good way to try and wrest control of these lanes in the early game to the Bung and the Restless, despite the fact that just based on matchup, they might have been outdrafted slightly.
That's a good point. Yeah, Mengbung recognizing his opportunities for ganks, hopefully earning his team some early pressure, plus helping relieve some pressure from that Garen Nico matchup. And here we have the standard PMA LCS actual positive game.
Good times. And I think a lot of focus should be on that Garen Nico top in general, because if you get Garen like with squishy kiting auto attackers like that, they have a really good chance to just pressure out the lane and bully it and make things like Garen just not that relevant. But the issue is they're very squishy and they can get run down very easily. So you're able to get a cheeky gank on that Nico, perhaps, prioritize that lane early, get Hillary Clinton a couple of fast kills, and all of a sudden the Nico's going to be actually useless because Garen's just too tanky.
Right. Well, looking in as Lugo pushes in Ahri for a little bit, knowing that his flash is down, how do you feel about Lugo's positioning here? Remember, we have us, Leona Zenith plays in, up to Tristana, Jackson again with the counter strike, leap strike, but the leap strike will go onto the Vel'Koz set up for this kill as they switch pressure to Vel'Koz. They get the kill on Vel'Koz, but the fight is not over. Piper Isis is trying to trade to JJ Bell, and they get double kill bottom, clean.
Yeah, so that's that matchup I was talking about earlier, that bot lane, taking that Vel'Koz, Tristana, and that Lucian Leona, really not a fun time. And so that gank really working out there because you got Biscuitat CC, you got Labby able to gap close really effectively with that Jax, and they already blew flashes, and they just kept going. They just didn't care.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Hillary Clinton not being stuck under the tower for a while is actually quite impressive, having that Garen and Nico matchup. But here we do see the Ahri get shoved in the turret repeatedly by the Fiddlesticks. That's even without that flash, I wanted to bring that up before that fight bottom. How do you feel about Lugo's positioning here?
It depends on, I feel like a lot of situations like that depends on team comms, because for example, if Labby or anyone like that has been tracking Menbung and they know he's not in a really good position to gank mid right now, then by all means take as much pressure as you can get. But if they don't have access to that information, then that's honestly kind of a coin flippy decision. And that's not necessarily something we're not used to seeing from Lugo, but a lot of those games it can translate to really real advantages.
Here we see the combo from Jarvan coming out to get a quick pick on JJ Bell. Earlier, if you saw, Menbug actually sat in that bush waiting for their opposing bot lane to get to the lane. And even as Zaruto set up for that gank by pushing way forward, JJ Bell and Biscuitat decided to step forward into it. How do you think they could have played that a little better from the side of Labby Dabby Doo?
I think you have to respect the pressure that Tristana and Vel'Koz can put out in terms of wave control. And again, with Lucian Leona, what you see happening there is if Lucian burns his dash at all, like they're stuck. There's absolutely nothing they can do. And with high CC, high impact early game jungler like Jarvan coming into a Vel'Koz E, and the fact that Tristana can actually all in effectively, especially if she gets the bomb proc, it can get very sketched. So I think you just need to respect options better.
And the Bug and the rest is taking the reward of the Mountain Drake, that double kill. But it seems Zaruto gets caught trying to go back to the lane. Menbug comes in with that Damascus Flag and Dragon Strike to clean up the kill on Labry. But it is Clumsy Chocobo that picks up that well-needed kill to keep up with Lugo in farm.
Oh yeah, that kill's very important for that mid lane, because I can assume that Lugo drafted that as a counter matchup mid. I've never seen Fiddlesticks mid before that much, so I actually have no clue how that works. I just know that Lugo can keep pressure with the Dark Wind in that lane, and when Ahri goes all in, he can just fear her and usually walk away. but having 2 kills on that Ahri gonna alleviate some of the lane pressure, and with the squishiness that Fiddlesticks has, being able to just come mid if you're this Jarvan and have this 2-kill Ahri to follow up on your ganks means that if Lugo isn't play safe and respects the options they have to offer, this could go all kinds of wrong for this middle sticks here.
So taking a step back while we have this lull, we can look at the fact that Menbung has been applying tremendous early pressure around the map, but the gold advantage still remains on Labiabizu's side due to that Nico outfarming Garen strongly, although Tristana is starting to pick up a farm lead. How do you think both teams are thinking about what's going on right now? As we get into that, Jarvan has to run away from a dash forward from Lucian as they try to go all in on him, but a great disengage by Vel'Koz will stimmy that.
And there's so much early game action so far, I'm kind of liking it. And I think also as well that stems a little bit from the fact that in a lot of these scenarios... Oh, hold on.
Ooh. Nico getting that that solid trade into Garen as she abuses that range advantage.
Oh, spy spot.
Whoa. Lugo picking up with his Crow Storm, grabbing that quick kill on Menbung as they force him out of his own jungle, and the 4-man bot seems to be trapped between Zawarudo and a Tribush. But unfortunately, without any other tools to take out members, they will escape unscathed.
Yeah, very proactive stuff going down from both teams early game. And I think both of these teams are trying to be proactive a lot, and they're really not crossing all their T's and dotting all their I's, so to speak, and it's resulting in this very large bloodbath of an early game where one team takes an advantage and then walks out or perhaps disengages and transitions slightly weird, and then the other team goes in and picks up another kill very quickly.
Fun fact for all the people watching, when you're dotting your I and crossing your T, that dot on the I is called a tittle. The more you know. Here we watch Garen trying to farm under tower, but Nico is nearly taking him down with that auto attack combo, but does not get him down.
Yeah, that was really close. I feel like he didn't know how much damage that passive was like to do. Because I would have been like, press the flash button, press the flash button, get a free kill. He just didn't expect it to do that much damage. Jesus.
Wow, really seeing the bully potential of that Nico with that press the attack trigger every time. Looking at the map real quick, it is quite dark on the map. What do you think the Bung and the Restless should be doing to close this gold advantage here?
We're going to close this gold advantage back. They just need to take it one step at a time and play for objectives here. Because we see the next dragon will be coming up in minute 23 seconds, and especially this Tristana Vel'Koz bot doing a really good job pushing on the platings. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Hilliard Caitlyn trades his flash for Rafal's flash there, preventing the access to that at the next dragon fight. And we have some easy trades going down bottom. Labyrinth did move up to the top to prevent any kind of dive potential now that his top laner's flash is down and he's sitting at half health.
Yeah, so back to my previous point, I feel like one thing they can leverage is this tower pushing dominance of this Tristana Vel'Koz bot, because Tristana can start to shred a lot of those plating spot as she has been doing, and perhaps mitigate some of that gold differential. In terms of what they should play for besides that, there's the mid lane matchup, which they can use to get some kills on the Fiddlesticks. Should be mindful of that wave control in the mid as well, in order to stop Lugo from roaming like he's doing right now.
Leona trying to open up with her ultimate, I don't remember the name of it, but Zarudo flashes out of the way and picks up a good kill onto the Lucian. Lugo, however, has roam bot, and with his Crow Storm picks up the double to clean up that fight. I gotta remember these names.
Solar Flare.
Solar Flare, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But Country Chocobo steps in place with her entire charm combo, and with the assist of Menbung, clean up for an overall victory towards the Bung and the Restless. Here they might catch out Jax as he's taking the scuttle behind him. Jax actually turns around and decides to go in with the charm pulling away so that the counter strike doesn't hit Menbung, but he turns around and smacks Menbung anyway with the flash, and he will get out.
Yeah, really good turn from that Jax. You honestly have to respect the fact that that is a full health Jax, and that Jarvan in general is going to die really quick to combos, and once he burns his knockout to knock up that Jax, he has no escape to actually get away from the Jax, so he just dies. And yeah, back to the previous point about that big fight, and I was talking about stopping some of Lugo's roaming, and when it comes to not dotting your I's and crossing your T's, he got to walk bot through their own jungle, which was, he got to walk bot through the Bung and the Restless's own jungle, which was completely unwarded.
Right, and this is the second time he's done that this game so far. I wonder if they'll start picking up on that.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Piper and Zawarudo taking that early game, that aggressive fight on the JJ Bell and Biscuit Hat, despite the fact that, once again, as I said, there were no wards around that bot side, and they knew that Fiddlesticks wasn't mid.
And here, if you look at the minimap, it looks like this is Lugo is making yet another trip to the bot lane, although Membung will be in place this time. Sheep misses the Zenith Blade, Jarvan goes in to clean up the kill with his ultimate, and Lugo is stuck as Piper Isis is attacking Lugo with just auto attack. Membung clears it up with that martial cadence, and Biscuit Hat does what he can to try to trade some kills, but without any damage support, he'll barely walk away with what seems to be 50 health.
Yeah, so this early game has so much action, partially because most teams really aren't playing with the best foresight in the world, and we see Labby setting that fight up and trying to pick him, despite the fact that Labby's in no position to follow up in the jungle right now, as he's not with them. And so they're really trying to take these, anytime they see a fight with an even number of people, they will take the fight.
That's a good point. And both teams trying to push ahead their early game dominance. With Clumsy Chocobo sitting bottom here, throwing out those charms and orbs deceptions to try to keep Lucian away from the wave. I believe they're just setting up for Dragon, though.
So, looking at this... hold on.
We see Labyrinth jump in with Counter-Strike and pop the stopwatch to absorb some of the combo that comes out of Ahri, but not enough to Spirit Rush, and the Master Standard with Dragon Strike finishes him off as Lugo pops Crow Storm to create a zone of pressure and take out Membung. Piper Isis is still trading auto attacks with the JJ Bell, and will just flash away to preserve his health. Zawarudo getting run down by Lugo, and in the meantime, Labby claims their Mountain Drake as their reward to even up the Drakes, but not so fast. Nico catches him. I have no idea what that spell is called, but Piper Isis hits him with the ultimate to knock him away, but trades her own life, while taking down Rafal.
Man, this is such a spicy early game. Like, none of these teams really care about setting things up strategically, so to speak, right now. They're kind of just running at each other, and we here on this caster desk are fully getting to benefit from the fruits of both of their labors, because this is so much fun to watch.
It is. It's a great time. And Labby do secure the Mountain Drake, with the first of each Drake color being buffed as of 2 patches ago. Getting that Drake will go a long way towards evening up the pressure from both teams.
I think...
Sorry, go ahead.
I said, I think as a whole, right now, neither of these teams are really giving much respect at all towards one another. And while that makes things very interesting to watch from our perspective, I think the first team that finally decides to start respecting the other team is going to be able to pull ahead in this situation. And when I say respect, I don't necessarily mean take their hand off, take their hands off the go button, because if they do that, the other team's hand's still going to be on the go button, and they're just going to engage and kill them. But I feel like if they keep the same philosophy that they've been doing now with these proactive plays, and just take a little more time, maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds to set them up a little, I think that team is going to pull ahead in the mid game.
As we see up top, Rafal has taken that first turret as expected in that matchup, and as you had mentioned earlier, our bottom lane from the Bung and the Restless had taken their first tower on the side of the bot lane. The charm comes out, followed by a silence, a dark wind from Fiddle preventing the rest of the follow-up from Clumsy Chocobo.
So one of these, so I'm looking at Levy playing some Jax right now. I think one of the things that could definitely be improved on is his usage of Counter-Strike. You really don't want to burn the Counter-Strike unless you know you can leap on them. So you really want to be in leap range and then drop the Counter-Strike and leap on them, because leading off with the Counter-Strike means that you lose that cooldown no matter what happens. So if you don't get the leap in on someone, then you're just sitting there with no Counter-Strike at all.
That's an incredibly valid point. It looks like Labby is trying to set up some kind of pick on Clumsy Chocobo with 3 members and Leona just outside of range, but Clumsy Chocobo is not biting on this fish bait, as we see more mid pressure just coming out from both laners.
And I think Chocobo is trying to get the right idea here, and he honestly has had the right idea this entire game, because you're seeing both he and Hillary Clinton right now are chilling on the Bungling Restless with 0 deaths right now.
Wow. As Rafal moves forward with that Pop Blossom, but gets flashed out of the way by... Wait, no, he flashed forward with the Pop Blossom, sorry, but Menbung moved out of the way with that last nerf to Nico's ultimate. It's not as difficult to avoid it. But we see that the fight continues as Rafal and Labyrinth try to push into the Bungling Restless jungle, getting not much more than just poke. However, the rest of their team has moved in and secured that mid tower during this.
Yeah, more spicy interactions, more rotations coming out. Both teams still trying to be active on this map, and perhaps maybe biting off more than they can chew in some situations.
Wow, a bush trap is set up by Lappy Dappy Doo's bottom lane. Tristana simply just gets out with her rocket jump, while Biscuit Hat and JJ Bow both expended their ultimates for that catch.
Yeah, really good foresight by the bot lane there for Lappy Dappy Doo. JJ Bow and Biscuit Hat just chilling in that bush, waiting for the rotation to come, and it definitely did, and they didn't really respect that bush at all. And honestly, a good reaction time for Vipericist to be able to W on out of there.
Memba goes in with the Master Standard Dragon Strike into the Cataclysm, locking down Labyrinth, but he himself is actually trapped as Zyrudo comes in with a massive Vel'Koz Death Ray, I don't know the name of the ultimate, as Piper Ice's rocket jumps in and just tags JJ Bow with enough autos to finish him off, and they get a clean 3-for-0 fight.
So, yeah, in that situation, Bung and the Restless getting the fight they want. It's a skirmish. Lugo is nowhere near to be able to flank them on the Fiddlesticks, and so it Jax, Lucian, Leona. Again, Leona ults down, the Lucian ults down, and they don't really have that much peel, so the high impact ultimates coming out from Menbung is Cataclysm and Zawarudo's Lifeform Disintegration Ray there. Gonna decimate their team before they have time to react. And they got the initiation, they got everything they needed to make the fight happen.
That was terrific. But on the other side of the map, Rafal in the meantime with his attack speed, Nico has taken the second turret in the lane. Hillary Clinton having to give up a lot of ground to this Nico.
Yeah, Nico's split push is getting to the point where it's realistically looking like a victory condition at this point, just because of how ahead this Nico is going to be, and I don't see anything much on the side of Bung and Restless in a duel.
Wow, Nico throws out that snare, but Piper Ice's is so far ahead, he just rocket jumps into the fight with his Infinity Eyes and Shiv, making quick work of auto attacks of Rafal. Bung with Restless moving to take the tower, they got caught out by I still can't remember, Dawnbreaker or whatever, by Leona.
Solar Flare.
Picks up a quick kill on Zawarudo as Memo gets caught out by Labyrinth's Counter-Strike, Leaf Strike, and he has the EQ combo out of the way. Piper Isis gets caught by the rest of Zenith Blade, and I can't get this Q on something. Shield Daybreak. Making up a quick return. 2 kills.
And Rafal's AD Nico doesn't necessarily have a terrific dueling potential in general, so if split push Nico were to work, it's more about the fact that she can take down towers fast and pressure those waves. You just see there Piper's Tristana being legit like 5 and 4 at that moment, and on the IE static shift spike, while Rafal doesn't have his Rage Blade fork, means that Tristana, especially with the well more equipped dueling tools and that bomb and her rapid fire, they're able to obliterate him there.
That's a fair point. And Labidu picks up their reward from that fight in the form of a Cloud Drake. And it looks like they're going to transition to a bot first tower, with Lugo trying to prevent the top. Membung goes in with the EQ and Cataclysm, trapping Nico in that Cataclysm with Garen. That's like the worst place she could have been.
Yeah, it's not a fun time for Rafal there, and that's what I'm talking about with the Nico interaction. Is Garen's a big beefy boy, so while Nico can pressure him in lane, if help comes, there's absolutely nothing Nico can do. And I think to bring up something that happened in the earlier fight, as this tier 2 top.
Wow, Lugo channels that Crowstorm and gets over, get a quick kill on the Menbung as Hillary Clinton has to run away from the damage from the Crowstorm, pushing their luck up top to try to get that second turret down.
Yeah, really good awareness from Lugo there, and not much damage is going to come out of the Garen at that point, because the only offensive item he's sitting on right now is a Bramble Vest, and he just burned ult to kill Rafal topside with Menbung. And Menbung's Jarvan right now sitting on Warrior Black Cleaver, going to be very squishy, so it's not really going to have much of an opportunity to play against a 6-3 Fiddlesticks that's sitting on double items, one of them being a Ludens.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Well, looking at this vision spread out from both teams, it looks like the Bangladeshis seem to invest most of their vision into their bot side jungle as they move towards Baron. And it seems Lappy Dappy Doo is starting to put their vision around Baron.
So yeah, one of the things that I was looking at on the stacks page before this match started was that neither of these teams tend to...
Wow, the Soulfare comes out and forces Aruda's Flash away. A quick ultimate trade for Flash helps to prepare for Baron.
So back to my previous point, neither of these teams have very high totals of wards cleared or wards.
Wow, and a quick death push set up by Lappy Dappy Doo catches Clumsy Chocobo out as he tries to Orb Deception. Arudo answers with that light disintegration ray. And the Nico Pop Blossom comes in to block down multiple members. Menbug tries to answer the Cataclysm, but Lappy Dappy Doo picks up 3 kills in trade for only 2 of their own.
Man, can I please speak? Stop fighting! Please! Yeah, a very good corridor fight there from Lappy Dappy Doo. And death pushes from Lappy Dappy Doo are especially scary because of the Fiddlesticks mid pick, which is having a tremendous impact overall on this match. And as I said before, with neither teams having that much peel, the team that gets the initiation is probably going to win. And with all these huge AoE spells coming out of Lappy Dappy Doo, like the Nico Pop Blossom, the Fiddlesticks Crow Storm, the Leona Solar Flare, like fighting. If someone gets initiated on in a corridor this game, it's Jarvan Vel'Koz, it's the Jarvan Vel'Koz combo, it's a Nico Fiddlesticks Leona combo. Something's gonna go wrong. Like whoever's initiated on a corridor just dies.
That's a fair point. As more pings come out from Lappy Dappy Doo to set a vision, they catch that their vision is being cleared out from Baron, and we're gonna have probably a slow moment where both teams just clear out vision.
We finally get to relax.
Yeah.
So if I'm these teams here, if I'm looking to clear out ward pressure, I'm looking to avoid corridors, avoid bushes in general, just avoid as much as I can. And if anyone's going to face check, it's going to be Hillary Clinton on this very tanky Garen. And realistically speaking, I don't know how much pressure they can take right now because Hillary Clinton doesn't have that many items, and he's pretty tanky, but if he walks into a push, they can vaporize pretty quickly.
Wow, Zyrudo catches a couple players out with his full combo falling into the Life Ray Disintegration Ray. But this Lugo answers that Crow Storm, taking down Clumsy Chocobo, and both teams are on the run for it. However, Piper Isis did finish off this guy. Comes out, catching up a bunch of players. Menbun does go with the Cataclysm. The lock player is down. Piper Isis does trade for some auto attacks onto Lugo before watching as JJ Bell goes down. And the Bung and the Restless have come out of this team fight with a 4-for-2.
So yeah, that was an absolutely insane sequence of events. So one of the things that we've been talking about the whole series is the lack of preparation, the lack of wards to set up fights, and that alone could have made it go very bad for Bung and Restless there, just because Lugo consistently getting ults on damage dealers for their team, but unfortunately he's not able to take out, unfortunately so far he hasn't been able to take out the huge game-breaking combos with the Jarvan and Vel'Koz and the Tristana, which is going to be most of what makes these team fights go in favor of Bung and Restless. And you see there, another one of these things that both comps suffer from is this lack of disengage. So them trying to run out after picking up those clean kills, and then just getting engaged for a slick 4-man Cataclysm from Menbung means they all just melt.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive placement by Menbung. And the Bung and the Restless come out with their own Cloud Drake. Both teams sitting on one Drake of each respective color, evening out the Drake pressure as they look to play towards bottom lane. Both teams shying away from Baron here, but as I say that, Lappy Dappy Doo resets.
So transitioning here into this late game, the only objective that's really going to be a factor for most of our time here is going to be this Baron, and we see Bung and the Restless having a lot better ward control right now, especially on their bot side, which on one hand isn't necessarily what you want right now, because there should be much more priority on this Baron, as it's the only big objective active on the map, and the only neutral objective active on the map as well. Any ward control is better than no ward control, so I can't fault them there.
That's a good point. But we do look at some of those wards down there do come from Zombie Ward, as that is the new popular ward choice to take over, what is it, the Ghost Poro? And now we see as Labby slides into the Baron River, taking vision control for themselves as they cycle into the Bung of the Restless's jungle. Then Bung trying to take this Gromp without recognizing the danger he's in, but he's pinged away as Labby takes away their last pink ward in their jungle. And this fight over Gromp or this pink ward push seems to be where it goes. Labyrinth jumps in with a counter strike or leap strike onto Garen, but Lugo quickly makes short work of Viperices with his Pro Storm and is caught out as a result after Clumsy Chocobo gets caught out by 4 other members as Naruto does his best to try to peel from the outside of the fight with no avail. Labby takes 2 clean kills without any reprieve.
So, two biggest factors in that fight is, number one, Piper kind of getting caught out there on the flanks, and the Bung and the Restless is perhaps not in the best position in general at the start of that fight, especially against Labby comp, but especially Piper being isolated like that, and Lugo finally finding a pick onto Piper and being able to just straight up kill him 1v1 kind of takes away most of the damage that Bung and the Restless could offer in order to clean up that team fight.
Right, as Labby transitions towards the Baron, they actually come off as Leona goes deep with that Solar Flare into Zenith Blade, but Hillary Clinton finds themselves into the thick of things as she tries to pick out Rafal. Naruto with the Lifeform Disintegration Ray on the side, trying to get as much damage as he can. Membun coming in to clean up with the Cataclysm, Smash and Standard Dragon Strike combo onto Rafal. And Viperices has respawned, so he comes in to clean up JJ Bell and Labyrinth. Lugo ultimate crossover over the wall. 2 Black Lives back over, trying to get the
it's so good!
Viperices gets the rocket bots away to finish him down and take the Baron. That was incredible.
What am I watching? Please, I can't. What am I watching? This is so.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
Yeah, I was talking. So the second thing I was going to talk about with the fight that broke out before Baron is something that ended up being a huge factor in that fight was the split fight they were able to get. And again, as that fight over Baron started out, you started to see a lot of the split coming in, which mitigated the effect that the stronger front line from Bung and Restless could have in that fight. But then as you transition to that Baron, you see that there was a very split call with Labby and Lugo just chilling and trying to hit Baron, and Labby actually being taken so low that he was a non-factor in that fight just due to the Baron. And then because that call was so split, Bung and the Restless was able to clean up with superior numbers because they have a team fight comp that just pumps out damage and can wombo if they're in an advantageous situation. So they clean up and then they force Lugo to make a hero play in order to save the Baron, which, by the way, that was absolutely hilariously
it was incredible. Looking at the items while these teams set up for their Baron plays, we see that Viperices has hit an incredible power spike, even picking up that Quicksilver Blade to counter Lugo's Spear. And looking at the other members of his team, he seems to be miles ahead of the rest of his teammates, while Lugo on the side of Labby has picked up the majority of their items.
Go on.
So I was going to say, if you're on the side of Labby what do you think is your goal to win this game from here on out? Lugo found this Throw Storm and finds himself looking at Hillary Clinton, but Piper just make quick work with him with just auto attack. Labyrinth is now stuck in the Cataclysm as he channels Counter Strike, and Hillary Clinton is just on the back line, taking down JJ Bell and Labyrinth on his own. Wow, as Clunky Chocobo flies through the back with Spirit Rush and just cleans up the fight for 5-0.
Well, if I'm Labby, my goal to win this game is going to be to not do that. That's going to be my first advice. But my second advice is the Tristana really fed hitting that power spike now. The Tristana is really this late game factor that shifts these fights in favor of Bung and Restless. And it wouldn't have been that much of a factor if Labby had perhaps played that early game a little more cleanly and not given Piper tons of opportunities to get kills and get fed. So Labby had a comp that could transition into mid-game well, but the issue was it needed an advantage to do so, and they made a couple of key mistakes and perhaps not setting up the skirmishes that they were taking early very well, and so it allowed the Wombo team fight for the Bung and the Restless that shouldn't have been as much of a factor in that comp to start coming online. And then key kills being picked up for Chocobo and Piper that game means that any fight where Labby couldn't kill the Tristana was going to be a lost fight transitioning into mid to late game.
That's a good point. The Bung and the Restless did take that first game. And as we transition into the victory screen, the straw poll is up in chat. Please vote for who you think is the MVP. Speaking of Vitalis, who do you think is the MVP of this game?
For my money, it's probably gonna be Piper or Menbong. Although realistically speaking, we'll look at some damage totals real quick. Tristana did a lot of damage. There's a lot of damage shared between all members of Bung and Restless, actually. All three of their key damage rolls were pretty even. Piper had a lot of good moments, but also had a few suspicious moments. I think the same can be said for everyone on Bung and Restless that game, as Menbug did a fantastic job of controlling early game tempo in general, and he had that slick 4-man Cataclysm. But there were a couple times where you just kind of watched him walk in and die, and that kind of leaves some questions on your mind. And at the same time, where Piper was doing a really good job of positioning and cleaning up team fights, sometimes there were also some suspect moments where he was getting picked by fiddlesticks. He was perhaps biting off more than he can chew. So I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to make the case for Menbung MVP, just simply because what really turned the team fights in favor of the Bung and the Restless was the opportunities to set up this wombo. And
yeah,
especially like the playmaking alone was pretty. The playmaking alone in the mid to late game was pretty good. He did a very good job of setting up engages, setting up turns, setting up fights. But I think what really makes me tip my hat to him is going to be the early game pressure and the foresight he had, especially to give Clumsy Chocobo some relaxation in that laning phase, and perhaps also give Hillary Clinton the ability to not get completely hard shoved and die, because that matchup could have been even worse for him, realistically speaking.
Right, my thoughts precisely. I also would give it to Mengbung simply because I think he alone saved the early game for the Bung and the Restless. As you did mention, Labi-Dabi-Doo's team comp did have a massive advantage going into laning phase, but with the ability to call some of that laning phase advantage, they came out of the laning phase and transitioned to the mid game with a decent power spike.
Yeah, so Labi-Dabi-Doo, there were a lot of moments that game where either team could have been in the driver's seat, but both these teams in general really just like fighting. Both these teams in general are just fighting a whole bunch, and so I feel very hesitant going forward to try and predict anything from a strategic standpoint, because really what decides all the fights what decides most of the interactions we're going to see is just who's fighting better.
Right, yeah. The word that comes to mind would be scrappy when it comes to describing this game.
Slobberknock is another pretty good one.
It's just consistent fighting, which is a good breath of fresh air coming from some of these PML CS games we see. So it's enjoyable to cast.
Jesus, that's some thick fiddlesticks damage, actually.
Yeah, getting some of those like 3-4 man Crowstorms off. Plus those early game Crowstorms were massive from Lugo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Fiddlesticks pick was surprisingly effective even after getting put massively behind early game. And I'm looking at some of the other damage tallies on this team, and Rafal's Nico putting out a decent amount of damage, managing to put out more than JJ Bell Solution, despite the fact that he was split pushing for like pretty much half the game. He got 2 free turrets off of split pushing. And so the question in my mind is how can we open up JJ Bell to be a little bit more of an impact this game too? Because I look at his performance that game, and he definitely didn't throw the game or anything like that, but I feel like there's a lot of opportunities they can do to sort of open him up and allow him to be more of a factor in this game too. Is that Lucian didn't really prove to have a lot of clean fights and be able to pump out damage consistently.
That's a good point. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the culmination of Week 3's LDD versus TBR Game 1. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have Game 2 from Labi-Dabi-Doo versus the Bung and the Restless. If you haven't yet, vote in the straw poll for your MVP.